Good morning guys. Today I would like to talk about Section 8, tenants in general, and a big question that comes up a lot about should I buy a property based on the type of tenant that's in place or that potentially can be placed. So basically, should I buy a property because it's got a Section 8 tenant in place, or should I avoid Section 8 tenants? It's a question that comes up a lot, and the sales guys get a lot from clients. So I think if I want to answer your question very straight, the answer is no. In my opinion, you should not buy a property based on the type of tenant. I think the bottom line is we need to look at what we're buying here, and you don't buy a tenant. And tenants can come and go. And tenants will come and go. Tenants will leave. So you could buy a property with a Section 8 tenant, and in 3 months' time, or in 6 months' time, or in 2 years' time, the tenant's gone. So I think we need to remember what we're looking at here. Well, you're looking at investing money in a property, in an asset. And I think the bottom line is you're buying a property, you're not buying a tenant. So the first thing that we should look at is where the property is located. And I think a lot of it comes down to good management as well, because I think as long as the management company do their job correctly and they vet the tenants correctly, they do the correct background checks on the tenants, they do criminal checks, credit checks, previous landlord history checks. As long as all of those checks are done, then it shouldn't really matter what type of tenant is placed in your property, whether it's a Section 8 tenant or whether it's a private tenant, as long as the management company are doing their job correctly. Now, I get the reasons why people are attracted by Section 8, and I think Section 8 is great, don't get me wrong. It comes with a lot of perks, the fact that the rents are paid direct from the city to the landlord. In some cases, Section 8 will probably pay a little bit higher than private tenants, so your return on your investment would be a little bit higher. They do annual checks on the property, which I think is a good thing as well, because you're getting an update on the condition of the property. In some cases, Section 8 properties would be of a higher standard because they need to meet a certain criteria for Section 8 to give you approval to place a Section 8 tenant. So I get the reason why people are attracted by the whole Section 8 thing. I get it, and I think it's a good thing. But I think we're coming away from the fact that you're buying a property, you're not buying a tenant. You're buying an asset. You're investing money in a property, and like I said, tenants come and go. So, in my opinion, I think the first thing you should look at is the location, the neighbourhood, and you have to remember that any property can be made Section 8. So just because a property is not Section 8 now, get Section 8 out, let them have a look at the property. Buy a property in a great neighbourhood, because that's going to increase in value over time, because maybe the city is spending money in that area. So that's the first thing that we should look at. The second thing should be the condition of the property, what condition the house is in, which of course we do an inspection on every property that we close on. So you need to look at the main fundamental items: the roof, the plumbing, the foundations, the electrics. We check for structural movement, all of these things. Then obviously the price. What price are you paying? Are you paying above market value, below market value? What are the comparable sales in the area? So I think before you even start to look at the type of tenant that should be placed in a property, or the type of tenant that you would like to be placed in your property, I think there's a lot of other factors to look at before you do that. And I think the main things, like I said, are number 1, location, number 2, condition, number 3, price. Am I paying the right price for the property? And of course, what return is it going to give me? And also taking into consideration things like vacancy and maintenance, because like I said, tenants leave. So I think all of those things should be looked at before you look at the type of a tenant. And properties over time go up in value. We know that, and if we could all go back in time, we'd buy as much property as we could, with hindsight, of course. But no, I think the bottom line is, I think sometimes we can get too hung up on, what type of tenant is going to be placed in my property. The bottom line is that you're buying an asset, and if tenants leave, you need to do a bit of work on the property. You're adding value to the house, and the price of the property in 5 years' time is going to be more than what it is today. That's the likelihood anyway, because history tells us that. So I think we can, as investors, sometimes we can forget, we can forget the main points of buying property, and it's always should come down to the location. It's like, why would you buy if you've got a great tenant in a property, a fantastic tenant, pays every month, it's got a fantastic job, but the property's in a bad location. Why would you buy it? Why would you buy a property like that? Because that tenant, as much as they're a fantastic tenant, they can leave at any time. So the bottom line is, you're buying a property, you're not buying a tenant. And remember, tenants will come and tenants will go. Your property is yours until you sell it. And remember, you only lose money on a property if you sell it at the wrong time. So that's my point. You are buying a property, not a tenant. Look at the location, the condition, the price, and the return. You get all those things right, couple it with good management, it shouldn't make a difference what type of tenant is in your property. All right.